everybody. Welcome to Shannon Confidential. I am Shannon, your host. And Shannon Confidential is a podcast about life, love, and everything in between. Basically, it's a conversation about everything we can relate to with each other. It doesn't matter your ethnicity, your sex, your identifiable sex, your financial background, whatever. We all have issues, financial issues, family issues, kids issues, work issues, dog issues, anything like that. We're all in this together. We all have the same problems. We all have the same insecurities. And I try to address those things that we can all relate to, maybe a little bit sarcastic, maybe a little tongue-in-cheek, maybe, just having a little fun with it because, it is what it is in this world. And there's one thing that we have in this world that is 100% completely unavoidable. It is truly unavoidable. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's also not necessarily a good thing, and that is stress. Stress, yes. So the way things are going in the current time, there's a lot of stress out there. And maybe to help all of you understand what stress is and what it does to our body might help us then learn how to handle stress. We'll never be able to get rid of it. It is a natural part of your body. And besides for the world being a little crazy right now, what brought me to really want to cover this is, I'm going to geek out on you. I was at CVS, and they sometimes have these Time magazines with all different topics. This one's stress. I also bought one, which of course I'll be reading next, on Alzheimer's. And they have National Geographic, anything like that. If that is there, I'm going to buy it. I cannot read enough. I cannot absorb enough information. And this one, for obvious reasons, the science, again, if you know me, if it says the word science, it's for me. The science of stress, especially right now, it just seemed really, really important. So I wanted to read through it, and then I thought, wow, this is such incredible information. I want to share this with my listeners. So I'll do a little citing in here, but I will link this magazine article when I post the podcast, and all of the research, all of the things I'm going to quote here, all of the information I'm going to give you is directly from here. Some of it's my opinion, but you'll know the difference. So I just want you to know I'm not trying to plagiarize here. I am actually telling you what I read in here and how it made so much sense to me, and I want to share that with you. So basically, stress has been around forever. Stress has been around since we have been running around this earth naked and hairy. All right, well, I got to take that back because for some of you that was probably last weekend. But you know what I'm talking about. This was back, I'm being serious, this was back when they didn't know what stress was. Our brains were really, really tiny. And they had it simpler to some degree because the worst thing they had to worry about is either eat or be eaten. A saber-toothed tiger, or they eat the saber-toothed tiger. They didn't have the worries we have today. And that's why they didn't worry. They didn't even know what worrying was. Our brains were like so itty-bitty. But as we evolved, we're still naked and hairy, but as we evolved, our brains got bigger. We got smarter. We had mortgages and jobs and bills to pay and learned more, and worry set in. And even then, we still did not know what stress was. Stress wasn't a name. It wasn't even recognized in science until not that long ago. Stress, as defined by Christopher Fungandes, Associate Professor of Psychology at Rice University in Texas, says, anything a person perceives as a threat. Well, since we are all different, that could be anything. Anything a person perceives as a threat is stress. Okay, so put it to you this way. You're stuck in a room with 100 cockroaches.
Oh.
Okay? Now, I have an intense internal fear of cockroaches. If I'm in that room with someone who just doesn't like cockroaches, but whatever, the stress level is going to be completely different. The threat is the same. Yeah, the threat is we're in the room with cockroaches and they might crawl on us, but the stress level and how our bodies deal with it is different. And that's where the threat perception is different with all of us, because we all perceive even the same stressor differently. And the one thing that I thought was incredible is, and I will have on my camouflage today because I thought it was appropriate, the best response system we have on the face of the earth is our bodies. It is incredible what our bodies automatically do, even sometimes with a thought. We are so soldiered up inside to defend ourselves, to heal ourselves, to protect ourselves. I wish sometimes our brains, the way we think, we were as smart as our darn bodies inside, because they get it. Our body, all our soldiers running around in us, our blood cells, they get it. We are so protected, but we don't realize that. We stress about it. And I want to explain to you what that does. When you are going to be stressed out, or stressed, or something is perceived as a threat, your body will instinctively go into preparation mode. It soldiers up. Everybody knows what to do. Your blood vessels know what to do. Your breathing knows what to do. Your adrenaline knows what to do. It all knows what to do. Now, it's how we handle that and handle that stress that could be stress for a good reason or stress for a bad reason. And yes, stress for a bad reason is a massive health concern. But unfortunately, as I go through this with you, you will realize that we all have more reason to be concerned with stress affecting our health than stress actually being a benefit. So I'll show a picture here. So your stress begins in your brain, your limbic system. And there's a reason why it shows it right here. This is the best center of it all, right here. So this is where it starts. And your body will immediately trigger that fight or flight response. Now, when I go into part 2 and part 3 and other things, it very much is a fight or flight. Your body is created to do that. A fight or flight is back to the saber-toothed tiger. You fight the saber-toothed tiger, or the saber-toothed tiger is going to eat you. As much as we have evolved, the initial response, the way our body responds to stress, hasn't really changed at all. Our bodies are still our bodies. We've just have gotten smarter on learning how to maybe manage that. Your heart rate, your sweating increases, your blood flows to your limbs, your hormone kicks in, and your adrenaline. Stress is a short-term psychological change. Everything's getting ready. It's getting ready for that fight. And the reason why your blood is flowing, you're getting inflammation and chemicals, and your thinking goes off, and it can affect your memory and recall. You ever see anybody get so stressed out or so mad or flipping out that they lose their wherewithal? They're almost out of control. That's that rush. Your body is just getting ready for war. And you'll make decisions that you might think were smart at the time, but maybe weren't. Like you got that adrenaline rush and you clocked somebody in the face, and maybe at that very moment you thought they needed to get punched in the face, but after everything settled down, maybe that wasn't the best decision. That's all your body's response system. The blood is saving itself because it's getting ready for injury. It needs to protect itself from injury. Inflammation is a wonderful, wonderful defense mechanism your body does. It's protecting itself from injury. It's anticipating that injury. It's anticipating that saber-toothed tiger coming at you. It's the same thing when your body triggers that fight or flight response in a stressful situation. Your body is going to react the same way. Now, picture that heart rate and your blood vessels and that adrenaline running through you. You are on crazy, crazy high alert. The reason why stress is bad is you can't be at that level all the time. Your body's not meant to handle that. Stress is something that you deal with, and once you deal with it, it goes away. That's stress. Stress is not meant to be continuous. Yes, the way we have evolved, we have more continuous situations. The saber-toothed tiger, that didn't hunt all day. It did rest. In today's world, there's really no downtime. You're going from work to going home to feeding kids to running to sports. There's everything that triggers that response. Even if you're driving your kids around to sporting events and things like that is not necessarily a stressful situation for you, it's still going to trigger that response. Not necessarily the fight or flight, but the good stress, the one that gets you ready, the one that gets you alert. Sorry, buddy. It's the one that gets you ready to make sure you're going to run on time and you're going to be there. That's good stress. You also don't want to be at that level either. You need your body to rest and recover. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. Stress was considered just a feeling. It wasn't an illness. At the Civil War, it was called soldier's heart. They were stressed out, trust me. But it was called soldier's heart. It didn't have a name. We didn't have the research. We didn't know what we didn't know. World War II, it was referred to as shell shock. And that's because the heavy artillery, the vibrations affected the blood vessels in the brain. And that's what they thought when autopsies were done, was the blood vessels in the brain. What they were seeing, they were like, oh, it's the vibrations from the artillery. We're going to call that shell shock. No, people, it was stress. We just didn't know it. Even up to World War II, stress was referred to as battle fatigue. Yeah, your body was in battle. It wasn't the war. It was the stress from that surrounding atmosphere you were in. That is a high stress, continuous situation. And stress, kind of like DNA, it was discovered on accident. There was Hans Seeley, he's an endocrinologist, and he was doing research on hormones in rats. And when he was doing their autopsies, he was noticing these blood vessel issues in these rats and was like, this should have nothing to do with the hormone. I don't get it. I don't get what these rats are dying from. You know, it's not the hormone injections. They shouldn't be sick like that. But he also had patients that were sick and showing the same symptoms in autopsies, but there wasn't anything to put, like, why did this rat die and why did this patient die? None of the surrounding causes would cause this problem in their brains. And he realized at that moment that that big cartoon light bulb that probably went off was, it's the stress of their situation. It's their life situations, what they're doing. The rats were so stressed over being part of the experiment, that was killing them, not the hormone injection. So, yes, I'm sorry that, there was any kind of research on rats, but with that said, look what we've learned. We now know what stress is. And we now know, yes, it can kill you. You know that cliche, don't worry yourself to death or worry yourself sick? That is such a valid statement. Yes, you can worry yourself sick. And yes, you can worry yourself to death because your body can't handle electric shock 24/7. Eventually, something gives out. And I mentioned it briefly before, there's good stress and there's bad stress. Technically all stress you don't want to have, but you can train the good stress to work in your favor. And good stress is I'm doing this podcast. There's parts of my body that amp up for this podcast, gets ready, but the good stress gets you in the zone. It gets you ready, it gets you focused, and you want to be successful. That's good stress. That gets you on the moment. You want to be successful. You want to reach that goal. I want to have a successful podcast. That is good stress. And again, it's short term. Podcast started, I'm talking, podcast again, stress is gone. All right, that's good stress. Bad stress is where you worry and you're stressing for extended periods of time. And you're on, like I said, high alert, and it involves every single vital organ in your body. That's why people are stressed out and they look like this and they got their hair is sticking out. That's kind of like an internal visual of what your body looks like in a high stress situation for that long. So you can start to see if you're a very stressed person, you just don't know how to pick your battles and you can't win everything, and every mountain doesn't have to be a mountain. Some are just molehills. Not everything has to be a battle, and not every battle has to be won. Settle yourself down, pick your poison, choose your battles, whatever you want to do. But what you have to do is get yourself off of that high alert for such a continuous period of time, because you are making yourself sick. The diseases and the illnesses I'll get to, it's remarkable what stress does to your body. So I'm going to go through a few things that if you have any of these symptoms, you might want to check yourself. Maybe see a doctor. Maybe they are stress induced. Type 2 diabetes can go on because your body is responding to the stressor, and your liver boosts your sugar levels consistently, and as your body's preparing for battle. So all of that sugar running through your body that's not naturally supposed to happen is causing type 2 diabetes. High blood pressure and cardiovascular disease. Think about it. You can't do this. I probably got really loud, I'm so sorry. You can't do that forever. You can't beat that fast for that long. Again, stress goes up and stress comes down. It's a short-term effect. Don't make it long-term. Obesity, We have a severe problem with obesity in this world. And yes, there are other medical conditions. I'll give you that. But stress is a massive contributing factor. And the high levels are cortisol, which increases your desire for sugar and fatty foods. So if you're in high stress or you're just so amped up, and then you're craving sugary and fatty foods, you're not eating to reduce your stress. You're actually making it worse. And the cancers such as breast cancer, prostate cancer, Alzheimer's disease, pain disorders, viruses, and infectious diseases, and that is because your immune system is so badly disoriented when you're in a stressful situation. Your body is taking its energy that it used to fight. You've got soldiers in there. You have, something bad comes in. That's why I have a spoonful of dirt and don't believe in a bunch of antibiotics. Your body is built to fight sicknesses and to fight diseases. And yes, there are medications that are warranted at a certain level. But every cold, everybody knows you should not be taking an antibiotic. Let your body be the warrior it's supposed to be. Don't write me. Well, write me if you disagree with that, because we can just pleasantly disagree with each other. I don't believe antibiotics are the reason. I believe antibiotics are the reason why we have so many illnesses, because we have taught our bodies to completely forget how to fight. So a spoonful of dirt, thank you, Mom. And so it takes your body's energy and it shoots it elsewhere, and it can't sustain your immune system because all that energy is going someplace else to help your body handle the stressor, and it's not taking the energy and doing what it's supposed to do by fighting off illnesses and diseases and what it's just simply meant to do every single day. Your libido and fertility is affected, not for nothing, but when I'm stressed out, maybe, you're not kind of in the mood. Who wants to mate when they're stressed out? All this leads to ongoing misery. So if you suffer from any of those things, yes, there could be other causes, and by no means do I try to be a doctor, but there could be very, very relatable reasons to the amount of stress in your life. And the powers to reduce stress, again, you will never get rid of it because our bodies are meant that way, meant to work that way, is exercise. My happiness series, I went all through it. Your social network, talk to your friends. That when you rise your happiness level, you lower your stress level. Increase your social network, your overall wellness, your unthreatening workplaces. Maybe you have to have a talk with your boss. Maybe your work atmosphere just is not conducive to a healthy lifestyle. Meditation, mindfulness, and yoga. I know I'm not a yogi. So many people are. I don't meditate. People swear by it. But I'm telling you, if you heard my podcast on happiness, it preached about yoga and meditation. It gets you focused in the moment, and stress is about before and after, the future. Stay in the moment. That reduces your stress level, and it also makes you happier. Your immune system, the inflammation caused by stress plays a direct role in the diseases and disorders. Inflammation is your internal lethal weapon to fight those. So when you have, issues with stress, you're affecting your immune system. And chronic stress is your brain becomes increasingly sensitized to stress. You teach your brain that it needs to be on high alert. And feeling anxious or stressed tends to breed more anxiety and stress. You're worried about, oh my God, I'm so stressed, but that makes you worry about stress. Your gut, oh my gosh, your brain is talking to your gut. It is messing with you. You're going to get constipated. Your body's not going to, your plumbing's not going to work correctly. This is all your stress. And I want to make something very, very clear as I come to the end here. Stress and anxiety are very, very different. They're very different. And I want to explain this to you. Stress is an external threat. The saber-toothed tiger, having to walk across the street, trying to avoid a car. That's getting out of a burning car. Stress is the way your body reacts to that external threat. Remove the threat, remove the stress. Anxiety is an internal alarm. It's a worrying about your bills. And like stress, anxiety can be beneficial, but you have to keep it in check. And this is how you know if your anxiety is going to affect your heart. If you feel like you worry too much and it's affecting your family, your relationship, and everything like that, you need to see a doctor. That anxiety could kill you. Thank you. brings us to our Be Kind quote of the day. And I'd like all of you to really take this into consideration. Bring it into next week. I want everybody to do their best to lower their stress level, lower their anxiety level, try to get healthier. Because in times of great stress and adversity, it's always best to plow your anger and your energy into something positive. And that came from the great Lee Iacocca. Thank you. Today's style secret is a foundation brush that I have recently fallen in love with. Now, I Googled what's the best foundation brush, and this is what I came up with. But then I also found out when my daughter saw it, because if any of us have daughters, they want to take everything you have. She actually has been using this for years. So if she's been using it and Google says it's #1, it's pretty good. And this is the Tarte. It's the Buffer, the airbrush finish bamboo foundation brush. And it does matter. I used to think, okay, put it on with a sponge. Shoot, back in the day, I just put foundation on with my fingers, if anybody remembers that. But this does work. It does put it on more evenly. It does give it that airbrush look. It doesn't let it pack on. So I'm a believer in this. My daughter's a believer in this. Tarte, the Buffer. I am loving your confidential questions. Contact me, let me know what you like that I'm saying, what you want me to talk about, any question that you have. Your responses, your ideas, your suggestions have been so fabulous. Gina, oh my gosh, your idea about makeup application was fabulous. Maybe I'll do some interactive live podcast from somewhere doing someone's makeup. Certainly not mine on camera. So send those confidential questions to me at shannonconfidential007@gmail.com. Thank you. Of course, I have my merchandise now on redbubble.com, redbubble.com. Get all your Shannon Confidential merchandise. If you do buy something, please send me a photo. I'd love to see it on you. You could also follow me on Facebook at Shannon Confidential, Instagram at Shannon_Confidential, Twitter at Shannon Confide7, YouTube Shannon Confidential, and Apple Podcast Shannon Confidential. Thank you.